using TikTok to build your empire with special guest Jake Crossman. Today's episode is brought to you by Builderall. They are my favorite all-in-one solution for your online business. Everything you need to start your online business, from landing pages to emails to selling your first products, all without breaking the bank. Find out how Builderall can help you grow your online business at servenomaster.com/Builderall.
Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss and start living your retirement dreams now, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Serve No Master Podcast, where you'll learn how to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host.
I'm really excited about today's guest because he's someone who is in a difficult niche that in some places you can't talk about, some places you can't, and as far as homeopathic medicine and helping people. And it's a really complicated place to be, to thread the needle, because one wrong phrase, and it certainly happened to me, you can get a strike or a video takedown. So what I'd really love to know is maybe how you started and how you realized TikTok was going to be your platform, was going to be the car you're riding.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jonathan. And thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. I would say about 2 years ago, when I first launched this company, I was a little naive when it comes to, I'll just say, the hemp extract space, right? Because I had lots of experience in business. I've been in business for a while. I worked for some major companies like Fox Sports, like ESPN. So I know I had a good handle on what I was supposed to do. And I got into the business and right away found out that I can't run ads, I can't promote blogs, I can't do Instagram content, I can't do anything, right? So for the first year, it was really just a lot of spending money on things that didn't really work, working with SEO companies, working with people that did like fake ads, all these companies that say they do all these real things ended up being fake. And basically a year into it, I found a lot of success on Amazon. And Amazon was doing great for us. I was able to run ads there, no problem. And then out of nowhere, Amazon took our store down and they said, you can't sell anything here. I said, okay. January 2022 at this point, so that's this year, we were out of money, nothing left. And I was like, well, that's it. We did our best. And I got on TikTok. I made a TikTok because my buddy had been telling me to make it for a year now. And I was like, well, we're out of options. Got on TikTok, and the first video I made was just me ranting to the camera and being like, this is why no one is ever going to approve hemp extracts and blah, blah, blah. And that video did 1 million views basically in 2 days. And that was when like everything changed for the company. And that was the first time we had real sales. And that was the first time I was like, okay, this might be something. So that's how I got into TikTok.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part of the story. A lot of people only see the success. They say, oh, Jake's an overnight success. It's like, no, there was a lot of getting here. Like, you're not counting the 27, 28, 25 years of before here, right? People skip that and all the sleepless nights and being late on the rent or whatever. Everyone has those experiences. We often compare our back of house to other people's front of house, right? And I think that's a really good lesson to start with, is that everyone has ups and downs, and that perseverance, trying new ideas, and then you have the idea that hits and people just assume that's where you started. That's really interesting. And then from there, how do you choose the topics you're going to talk about and the content that's going to work for you? Because I know with TikTok, some videos get 1 million views, and the next one gets 1,000, the next one gets 500,000. And it can sometimes feel a little bit like a lottery.
It's really incredible how much of a lottery TikTok really is. And it's at the end of the day, it's an incredible platform because they prioritize the user above all else. And that's an interesting prioritization, right? No other platform prioritizes the user at all times. I mean, Facebook, Instagram, they'll prioritize an ad, they'll prioritize a celebrity, they'll prioritize whatever they think that you want to see, where TikTok is really prioritizing what it knows you want to see, or at least what it thinks based on the algorithm. So when I make content, a lot of it ends up just being a crapshoot. Like, I have my ideas, I have my hooks, I have my taglines, I have the things that I know have worked in the past. But sometimes I'll make a video and I'll spend an hour on writing, producing, editing it, and I love it. I think this did great. Send it out, and it gets, like you said, 500 views. It's like, what happened here? Well, I don't know all the time, because sometimes that exact same video I can take down, repost the next day, and it'll get 10,000 views. So it really is such a lottery sometimes that it makes it difficult to make content. But what I have found now, being a year into it, is that as long as I am consistent, as long as I make the content that people want to see from me, and as long as I don't get in my head about, oh, this video didn't do well, I'm not going to make a video today, or blah, 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 everything ends up being fine in the long term.
Yeah, it reminds me of this old joke. I think it's from Norm Macdonald that like gambling is an addiction, but it's the only one where you can win a lot of money. That at least there's a small upside. And in the same way, I think a lot of people post 5 or 10 videos to TikTok and not have that winner. My first one wasn't a winner, right? And I think it's worse if your first one's a winner because then when the second one isn't, you can't recreate and you
100%.
miss that there is a challenge to it. But the thing is, I'm old enough. I remember when things could go viral on other platforms. I remember when a video could go viral on YouTube or you could have something go viral on Facebook. That's almost unbelievable now. Like I can't imagine looking at my Facebook feed and not being depressed. Everything I see on Facebook makes me feel bad. Like I don't know anyone who looks at Facebook and feels good. I have one friend who she told me she blocked like 80% of her friends. I was like, well, that's a lot of work, right? And you have to deal with those people in real life where they go, and for me, it would be a lot of my family members because everyone on Facebook just wants to share their political opinions or their religious opinions or let you know who they like or don't like. And it's like, that's not what I want to see, right? I want to see something funny. Like I haven't seen anything funny on Facebook. I'm going to say in 8 years. Maybe it's longer,
Yeah.
at least 8. And
Yeah.
the thing is that, and this is the beauty of TikTok, is that it's the one platform that I know as a consumer is smarter than me because it knows what I like. Because it shows me a video, I go, I'm not going to like this, and then I do. And I don't get a feed like anyone else. I get a lot of neighbor disputes. I cannot get enough of that kind of stuff. And no one else is watching that. Like it's just me, a lot of divorced dads talking about stuff. They know what I like. For some reason, I'm like, I didn't know I would like this. But even if I change accounts or use a new phone, it's within an hour, they go, no, we know what you like better than you like, right? And it
More of those neighborhood fights for this guy.
yeah, there's like it's not even the actual fight, it's the neighbors talking about it, right? And it's like that's what I like. I don't want to see the actual fight, I want to see the discussion. So it's really boring to other people, but they know what I like. And like I've never seen, I know there's people that have an anime 3D figure. I've never seen one of those. They know I don't want to see that. They don't show me dog videos. They have really figured me out. And that's, I think what's really, they're very good at you finding your audience. But the part that people get lost in is that, yes, it's a gamble, but at least it's a gamble where you have a chance of winning. If I post a long video on YouTube that I spend a full week writing, editing, producing everything with my team, I'll get 100 views. And I can post a 10-second video on TikTok and get 750,000 views. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, sorry, YouTube.
Right.
Like, you don't, I mean, and YouTube's like, at least give us repurpose your TikToks. We'll give you some views. And that's the only thing that I do. And I get 100x more traffic from just reposting TikToks. And I think that a lot of people make some really big assumptions. They think that it's only kids on TikTok, which it's not. It's 80% people over 20. They think there's no buyers. It's the opposite. I get a lot of customers from there. And most people I talk to, they have these assumptions. But what I noticed, the reason I got into TikTok was all the people in my circle who are really rich, they're like, oh yeah, I spend an hour on TikTok a night. And I was like, what? That's when it got me the revelation. Everyone I knew who was wealthy like hangs on TikTok. I was like, okay, there's this big assumption, and that's where the opportunity is. And I think that it's one of the few platforms where you have a chance of your message getting out there. And that's why, I guess that's why a lot of people love it and hate it, but it's so hard to get heard on other platforms. Like there was this training, I read this training. They were like, oh, we'll teach you how to launch a podcast. All we had was a follower list of 1 million people. We launched our podcast. It was a total success. I was like, wait, you start out with 1 million people? That's not, no one else has that, right? Like that's such an advantage. Like, yeah, this podcast would be a lot bigger if I start off with 1 million fans from day one. Like, of course. And it's the journey that they ignore, and it's the ability to start from zero. What I love is that TikTok, no matter how bad your video is, they'll show it to somebody. They'll show it to 200 people. There's so many videos on YouTube with 0 views or posts, especially on LinkedIn with 0 views, 0 engagement. It's brutal. So that's really cool. So as you started to notice there's interaction, how do you know or start to predict like what your audience will respond to? Like how can you tell, oh, I know why this video, because sometimes someone has a video go viral and they can't figure out why. But you've seen to start to develop a consistency, which is the big hurdle.
I've actually went through probably 3 like iterations of what my TikTok is. And that's just what it is with TikTok. Like it evolves as the users evolve and what people want to see from you. But when I first started, like I said, that first video was me just ranting and raving to the camera about why I was mad that my business wasn't working. Right. And so what I ended up doing was I really stayed in that vein for the first 2 or 3 months. And a lot of my initial push was from me just being like, can you believe the government? Can you believe the FDA? Right. Just like being angry about stuff. And then I was like, I had a conversation with my other business partners and talking like, okay, this has been working. We're getting sales, but the majority of the videos and the content is inflammatory. It's very like, you know? do we want that? Is that what we want for the business? And the answer was no, not at all. We are a holistic wellness company. We want people to be holistic and happy and live well. So that wasn't, even though it was working, it wasn't what we wanted. So we shifted into more coaching content, how to do things better, how to lose weight, sleep better, that kind of stuff. But for a while, 0 views, right? Because you make that switch and TikTok's like, oh, you're not making the same content anymore. So for a while, 0 views, and then finally found some traction with this new coaching content. And then in July, late July, I got a new phone, and I'm an idiot. I got a new phone and I didn't switch over my phone number on TikTok, and it was fine for a while, but then late July, they needed me to confirm a password or something, and I couldn't do it. And they're like, oop, lock your account. I lost my account for 4 weeks. And those 4 weeks, sales dried up, the business dried up. We basically learned, okay, TikTok is our lifeblood. We're losing it. So we made new accounts. We're trying to do new stuff. Nothing's really working. Once the account came back is when I was all in. I'm like, okay, this is going to be coaching, self-help content. And now everything I make is if you want to improve your memory, let's try this together. If you want to breathe better, let's try this together. If you want to very engaging, very let's do something together content. I don't even know how I got to this part of the answer, but it was just been so many evolutions of my TikTok that now it's thinking back, what did work and what I know worked in my initial wave of virality would never work again. It's a whole different audience now.
People always assume that once you hit a certain level that there's no more challenges or adversity, right? And that's the one challenge of a single platform of traffic, is that your account can get locked, or you can lose the SIM card or have a password issue, and then suddenly it's devastating. And I know that for people that were killing it on Facebook, and then Facebook banned their niche or banned their page or group, and then they're over. So that's the one risk of having the single platform problem. Have you tried
Absolutely
reposting your content on other platforms, and are they allowing that, or are you just limited
We do
to
it
TikTok?
everywhere. We do it everywhere. We repost Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels. We do it everywhere, but it's just not the same as TikTok. Instagram has been slow growth. The last year, we're at 20,000 followers now, which is from 0 to 20,000 is great in a year, but comparatively from 0 to 1 million followers on TikTok, it's just not even close. In YouTube Shorts, we have 1,000 subscribers. Facebook, we have 500 likes. So it's just, TikTok is the platform for us.
Yeah. So many of these other platforms keep saying they want to do the same thing, but they don't want you to see what you want to see. As much as they pretend that it's about you. And I remember, because the platform I grew up on was MySpace, and MySpace was so hit. You couldn't be a band without a MySpace page for a long time, right? No, bands didn't have their own website. They had a MySpace page.
Right.
And then MySpace kept adding ads to the page. And I remember at one point, my profile page was more than 50% ads, and that was the end of it. And that was,
yeah.
And the cool thing is, Tom, the original founder, he got out. He sold right before that happened. I was like, what happened, Tom? And now it makes sense that someone else did it. And I think that's the problem, is you have this mindset that the money comes from the ads, and you start to give the users exactly what you think they want instead of what they want. It is hard for me to get YouTube to show me, as a consumer, something I want to see that's not a channel I already subscribe to, that I don't search for specifically. It's really, really hard. And yet TikTok knows within an hour. It shows me a lot of different types of content. It's not just neighbor disputes and dads, but it is a lot of that. But it very rarely do I see a video and go, why is this on my feed? But I do that all the time on YouTube. I'm like, YouTube, why are you showing me this? Or YouTube will show me a video, I'll ignore it and not click it, and it keeps coming back until I say stop showing
what are you
this
doing?
channel. I don't watch political videos. Why do you think as soon as I hit 40, everyone goes, oh, now he's really into politics. Stop it.
Yeah, it's no, I don't want to see.
That's not what I'm interested in, right? I'm watching behind the music and the story behind this 80s song, or comedy stuff. That's what I'm interested in. But I don't know where they get their demographic data or how they do it, but all these other platforms, they've become, it's in the late 90s, it used to be the big websites that had the list of domains. They just had a list and told you what was good. Whereas Google, they succeeded because they said, no, we'll let you choose what's good and let you affect the rankings, and start kind of user generation of content mattered. And I think that's why there's this big revolution with TikTok that other platforms aren't able to replicate, because they can't let go of the thing that's magical. That's why TikTok views are up, 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 and there's revenue in there and it's growth. I don't see that many ads on TikTok. A lot of people come to me because they know my team is doing really, really well on TikTok. We have some huge projects on there, and they go, our ads never work. We repost our Instagram ads. I go, that's why, it's too shiny. the secret to Instagram is to Photoshop yourself until you look amazing, right? And you always see those backgrounds where like they accidentally Photoshop the wall to make you skinnier too.
Yeah.
TikTok's not that. I think TikTok has a level of realness. And sure, there's some silliness and silly dancing and that stuff. But it's not as fake as Instagram is.
When you're scrolling and you see an ad, like you said, you just scroll immediately, right? If your brain can flag it as an ad before even seeing the sponsored word, you just scroll. So Instagram, YouTube, whatever, they make you watch that ad. TikTok is like, if you think it's an ad, good, throw it away.
Yeah. And we run a lot of ads. And the reason our ads work is because they're just our most popular videos. And that's really the secret. So I think that's very exciting. So you found your groove, you went over that hurdle, and now you're in the third phase. Okay, we know TikTok's working. How do you supplement that and prepare for the moment when possibly something goes wrong, traffic goes down, the algorithm shifts? Who knows? They're always threatening to shut down TikTok, right? And we're constantly thinking about that because I've had other platforms shut down on me, right? Like MySpace is gone, Vine is gone, platforms do disappear. Maybe Twitter's going to be gone. Who knows? Like every day, the new Twitter saved, Twitter's dead, Twitter's saved, right? Like what? Just wait a week and then tell me. But what is your plan for the future, especially when you're in a niche that's limited, right? You're allowed in some states, not in other states. There's a lot of complexity. So you have this additional layer of legality.
Sure. So at this point, everything I sell, my business is legal everywhere in the United States. There's no state to state legality with my business in particular, but I understand the question with any other business as well. When it comes to what we've been doing the last 3 months, we've been focusing all in on our email lists and our Facebook group. So we started the Facebook group. That's going to kind of been where we're like trying to compile people and say, listen, if you're watching a TikTok live, if you're watching a TikTok video or whatever, come join the Facebook group. That way, for one, I can learn who you are, right? As a health coach, as someone who is a nutrition coach, it's easier for me to actually give good advice when I know who you are versus just like a TikTok comment or someone's like, I don't sleep well. What should I do? Right. Well, let's talk about why you don't sleep well. But as far as the email list goes, that has been our biggest kind of driver of sales in the times that TikTok's down. We have probably about 10,000 on the email list now. And at this point, as long as we are giving good information, giving good advice, giving good, the idea of reciprocity is really big for me. The idea of giving away free advice without any kind of ads, because when I'm giving out advice or giving out knowledge or giving out coaching offers for free, it's much, much, much easier for people to come on, talk to me, and then actually listen to my advice when I say, hey, try this product or try this, technique or try this thing. So, the email list and the Facebook group have been just really big drivers of, like I said, that reciprocity of just giving out free information and hoping to have some people come back for sales.
Yeah, as an author, like I made my biggest hit when my book launched in 2016. That was the first time I really exploded under my own name. And the same thing happened where I was like, well, now that I sell books, you got to pay for my words, right? And I went through that phase where I had to let go of that and go, no, I still have to blog. I still have to put out content because there's this idea, there's this mindset. This is the first mindset you have is like, oh, my stuff is so good. I got to keep it behind the wall. I can't release my good stuff. And then I realized later on, no, if I give away really good stuff, people go, wow, if this free stuff is this good, the paid stuff must be insane. And it's actually better. And a lot of times when I buy a product, it's for the simplification. There's this fear like, oh no, everything Jake knows is on TikTok. It would take me it's out of order, right? Because it's not in the order you should learn it, right? No one organizes that way. So it would take me 10 times longer to learn it. So often what we pay for is a simplification. One of my friends was like, I would pay 10 times more for a course that was 1 page and I could learn everything I need to know from a list of bullet points. I would rather have a revelatory learning that's really quick because as creators, we're like, oh, my book needs to be 800 pages. My course needs to be 7,000 words, right? Like it's the same thing when I had one coach, one of my health coaches many years ago was like, oh, you need to go to the gym 13 times a week and you need to be taking a couple $1,000s in supplements a month. And I was like, that seems like a lot.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not doing that.
Like an insane amount, right? He's like, your diet should be 80% supplement, 20% food. And I was like, how are you alive?
But I don't think that's right at all.
There's always the too much. I was like, no, I think a little bit is enough, right? And the balance is so important. And especially in health where there is so much mixed information. Like I still don't know if eggs are good or bad for you. From my life, eggs have gone from good to bad, back and forth like 20 times, right? But that's even something simple, right? Like when I grew up, every commercial is like, you got to drink milk. If you want bones, you want to grow up to be handsome, right? Milk does a lot. Now, like, oh, if you drink milk as an adult, you're going to die, right? It's so hard, right? Especially because there's so much stuff and there's all these books and all these studies and things always change. It's a very murky space because everyone, once they hear something once, right, it sticks with them. Whether it's someone doing an exercise wrong in the gym, like
Right.
whenever I change personal trainers, they go, "Why are you doing all that stuff? Everything the last one told you was wrong." And I was like,
Yeah. You're
and
like,
it's,
come on, find some common ground here.
but it's exactly that. So it's a space where there's a lot of complexity. I've done some work in that space myself and worked on some projects like writing sales letters and copywriting, and the rules are very, very specific. And so as you're building out this audience, I think what you talked about with a Facebook group is so important. A lot of people don't talk to their customers and they don't know. Like I know how old my customers, I know their gender, not from like a report, but because I try to communicate with a lot of
I'm
them.
talking to
I pay
them.
attention to
Yeah.
who emails me back the most because it changes. My audience has changed over time. And the same thing sounds like it's happened to you, right? There was the people who like the ranting, but the better customers are not always the largest views, right? There is that
Right.
balance of I don't want everyone watching. I want the right people watching. So
Absolutely.
when you think about going forward, right, building your business and getting to the next tier, because right now it's obviously very connected to the more you post, the more you make, right? There's such a connection. How do you think of breaking that connection to where there's a higher level of autopilot so you work on the next phase of the business, the next kind of leadership or strategic phase?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. I think as far as business goes, like business is simple, but it's hard, but it's simple. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like once you know what works, doing that over and over again and getting to the point, like you said, of making that more automatic and then moving on is exactly what business is, right? So that is obviously the goal right now, is to figure that out. But unfortunately, I am so much of the actual social media aspect of the business right now. I've had people come in and try to write for me. I've had people try to edit for me. I have an editor right now that does a lot of the editing, but even for my main TikTok channel, for my main posts, I'm doing all the work. I'm doing the writing, the producing, and the editing because nobody can capture my voice right now properly, right? And that makes sense. That's just how it works. So the thought right now has been, we've tried to work with other influencers. I think that would be a great idea, as other influencers and doing kind of the same thing. But at the end of the day, people know me and they like me. So I think figuring out ways to make my content be more accessible and more easy to make. And we're doing a podcast now, we're doing clips, we're doing things like that. But like you said, that the problem is just those TikToks, the ones that do really well are the ones that I put the most effort into. So I don't really have an answer to how to automate that process right now. But for the long term, just growing the email list, growing the Facebook group, and trying to be really active, like you said, with my customers, talking to them. I actually post my personal cell phone number on my website. So any of my customers can text me with any questions or whatever, because it's like, and for a while, I didn't even say it was my number. I just said text support number because I thought in my head, it'd be better if my customers think this is a bigger company with support chats. And I'm like, well, no, it's actually better if they think it's me and it is me and we can talk. So just learning how to make me more accessible with less effort is kind of the next stage of this business.
Yeah, I've experienced the same thing when I've tried to bring in script writers or people to speed up my process because TikTok is the one place where it's really hard to write scripts for other people because either you get it or you don't.
Yes.
Right. And I'm not the absolute best. The people I work with, I have younger, they're all 22 who they do the 99% of the TikTok. They have their own channels. They're so good at it because it's their language. And I can do TikTok okay, especially for my age, but golly, I am terrible on Instagram and Facebook, right? I'm not good at social media. And that's really usually what the case is, right? Because it is its own language. I mean, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, they're all kind of the same. They're all the same language. They all have the same look. The same things work on all of them. TikTok is what's unique is that it's a language. And so we can tell when it's an ad or when someone's doing a sponsored post or something feels different, right? It's like when people start acting, you can tell like, wait, why are you acting? Right? Because it's a sponsored post and they're holding up something and it looks really weird. It's like, no, just act like yourself. And it makes it worse. And I think that's the challenge is also the beauty of it. I think that's why it's hard to fake it on TikTok compared to other platforms. I'm sure some people are getting away with it like everything, but there's this level of authenticity because we can't even figure out, I can't get people to write scripts for me either. I would love to have that because that takes the most time for me. The hardest part, the actual content is the easiest part. Recording and
so easy.
The part where you write it and the part editing afterwards, those are very time consuming. And it can be so amazing, I guess, if you could get someone to write scripts, but I have never found that. And I think that's something that they're designed to make sure that you stick with. However you start is how you're going to end. So that's really cool. I think this has been very interesting, especially to see that it's possible to build different types of businesses using TikTok, because there is such an assumption, even amongst my audience who knows I run a large TikTok business. It's going really good. It's actually the best part of my business. It's now shrinking the main part of my business because
Wow.
it's going so well. And it's working on really, really big projects. And what we've noticed for us, especially, is that most brands don't get it. Big brands who post stuff on TikTok, like every one of those challenges are terrible. Like it's the Doritos double dip challenge. I've never seen a video with one of those tags from a big brand that paid millions that the video was about the topic. I've never even seen any of those challenges where whatever fast food chain paid for today's challenge. I've never seen the actual challenge ever. They don't get it. And that's why there's such an opportunity. I think now is the biggest opportunity for people in their 20s to go to these big brands and get, hey, I can do this. Okay, I know how to make videos that are interesting. Let me be the face of your brand on TikTok. And I think that's really what we're doing a lot. And that's why I let my team, who's really young, do, because they speak that language. And I get it. Like I am pretty good on TikTok, but the stuff they do and the ideas they have, it's very exciting to see. So I think that's a
If
lot
I
of
can
what
say though, I'm sure your team is fantastic, but with other kids that are 20, 22, 23, right, who think they got it, go make your own TikTok first and go figure out the language of your TikTok and go figure out how to actually get views before you go to a brand and say, we want $1,000. Because I can't tell you how many TikTokers reach out to me and say, hey, we'd love to do a sponsored post. I'm like, okay, you have 10,000 followers, you get 5,000 views on average. Would you do it for $100? Actually, I was thinking like 3,000. What are you talking about? Like, actually, that's the real number I'm getting frequently. So it's like, you're out of your mind. Go figure out how to make a TikTok first, and then let me know how much it costs, because you don't know how to do it yet. You know what I mean? So spend the time working and figuring it out first.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I reached out to these guys because they run about 18 channels of all their own. Each of their interests, they
Wow.
have a different interest, and they have millions of
18?
followers and all these different things. Yeah, they have one about being ex-military, one about haunted houses and like scary stories, and all. They have 3 about being brothers, and one's married. They have a married channel, and they all have large follower counts. And I was like, okay, you guys really know how to do it. That's what I look for. And you're exactly right that the other issue with younger people is the assumption that like I can do it without proving it, right? And that proof is the hurdle. It's like, no, if you show me, right, if you have enough followers, if you can get the consistency, then I'll pay for it, of course. So it's interesting that you on the other end, because many times when we've tried to hire influencers, it's like either they're non-responsive, or they think, many people I've seen with 10,000 followers don't even have a way to contact them in their profile, right? It's not the same as their name in other social media. There's no email contact. So I think that's why there's an opportunity for people that start to approach it, like take it seriously, like anything else. Like you have to switch from thinking I'm playing video games to, no, I'm streaming. I have to stream 40 hours a month. That's why I like video games. That is not a job I want. Like you have to stream 40 hours a month and be funny for all of them, right? And like talk the whole time, because someone will pop in for 3 seconds. You better be talking. People often miss the hardness. So I think you've dialed into something really good. And I thank you for helping me correct, because that's exactly important, is that it's an opportunity if you see it for what it is, and it can be really good. But yeah, you really have to build. I usually look for people that have built 2 channels first. Like when we're training people, we say, you have your own channel, build one that's not you, that's in a niche you're not normally in, that's something very different. So that's really, I think, the opportunity, is that if you can do that, because what's cool is you can have 6 TikToks on 6 phones and no one will see any of the channels, the
Right.
different ones. There's really an opportunity. So I think it's really cool. I appreciate you giving me so much of your time. I know people are going to find it very interesting, and I would encourage them to follow your TikTok channel. And where can people find out more about you? Where should they check out what you're doing and how you're growing?
Yeah, I would love everyone to come join the Facebook group. It's just a great place for us to connect and figure out, like I said, who you are, who I am, and how we can work together. Lots of good advice there. The Facebook group is USA Medical Family on Facebook. And then my website is just usamedicalshop.com.
Okay, awesome. So I'll make sure to put those links. They'll be in the show notes and below the post on YouTube. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time, Jake. Very cool today.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Serve Master Podcast. Get a free copy of my bestseller, Fire Your Boss, right now on Amazon. Go to servermaster.com/getfire, or just search Fire Your Boss on Amazon.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Serve No Master Podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next week with more tips and tactics on how to escape the rat race. Please take a moment to leave a review at servenomaster.com/iTunes. It helps the show grow, and more listeners means more content for you. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.